What is up, everybody, and welcome to day 4, the final day of my social media book tour right here on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Welcome to all of you. Wherever you are watching this, thank you for visiting my page or my channel to watch what is day 4, the final day for my social media book tour for My Life in a Nutshell. I appreciate all of you for coming. My Life in a Nutshell is available on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, go ahead and get yours today. Um, for the last 3 weekends, last Saturday, last Sunday, and this past Saturday, I have started each day by talking about the idea of writing a story about my life and how I came up with this idea to do this story and what the original idea was. And the idea of writing a story about my life was something I always had since I was a kid, but knew I couldn't. Two things, and I haven't mentioned this on the other previous days, was knowing that I had a lot more when I was a kid. When I started writing as a kid, I wanted to write a story about my life, but knew I had a lot more living to do before I could write what would be considered a decent story about my life. And the other thing was, when I tried starting to write a story about my life, I couldn't get past the day I was born. So I couldn't get past I was born October 15th, 1983. I couldn't get past that part. So I stopped for a while, and then 2019 happened, and in 2019 my father passed away. And a month after my father had passed away, I'm sitting in front of a school that's about to close, and the company thought it was a good idea to close it down because they couldn't afford to break the walls down and clean out the mold that was discovered in the school, and they thought it was cheaper just to close it down. So I'm sitting out front of a school waiting for parents to come and pick up their child's things. And as I'm sitting there, this idea of wanting to at least write something about my time as a preschool teacher thus far, up to that point in 2019, and also wanting to write a little bit about my dad. And I was going to call it, at the time, I was going to call it Preschool and Life. And it was really just how I became a preschool teacher, what my time so far was like as a preschool teacher, and write about my father and about his life up to his death. And I started writing about my father because my father was really the one I was really more focused on at that time, and I just had so much in me that I wanted to get out about my father. And I started writing about my father, and then it turned into more over the coming years. It turned into more than just about my father and more about my time as a preschool teacher. It slowly turned into a story about my life, and I was able to get past the part that I was born October 15th, 1983, and I was able to continue writing. And all these, there were so many memories that I had in me that I had suppressed for so long that they were slowly starting to come out, which was both a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because I needed all that stuff to come out of me so I could write it all down for this book. But at the same time, it was bad for me because there was a lot of things that I was reliving that was reminding me of why I was a black sheep to both sides of a family, a reminder of what they hated in my parents, my mother being white, my father being black, being biracial, and then being able to talk about being biracial and what that meant for me, and how as a child I hated being biracial because I felt like I was in the middle, that I wasn't black enough for the black kids or black enough for the white kids, and it felt like being in purgatory as a child. And in that same chapter that I wrote about being biracial, which I call feeling mixed feelings, I talk about my father in there and how he had these talks with me, talks that a father would normally have with their child who is who is of a different color, who is black, who is Hispanic, who is Asian. I don't think it's a talk that fathers have with their Caucasian sons. I feel like it's more of a talk that a father of color has with their son or daughter. And it was a talk we had, and the conversations we had were, it wasn't just about the police and how to deal with them, and listening to them and doing what they say, and being polite and never talk back, but also in ways to be safe, and remembering to that as long as you're out there, the world is going to see you a certain way, that not everyone in the world is going to see you as you are, which was biracial, mixed, that there are people in the world that will look at you and see one color. And he would have those talks with me, and talks about being proud of who I was, and being who I was, that I have a rich history of my culture on both sides, that I don't just have one side to look at. I have both sides to look at, and I should be proud of both those sides. And those talks with my dad made me open my eyes to see what it was that I am, and be proud of that. And I have my dad is the reason why I am proud of who I am. But learning who I am because of my father, in those talks we had, were amazing. And then talking about my family in another chapter, and how that, and dealing with that family, and on both sides, and how that was for me as a kid, and how that affected me as a kid, mostly for the bad. And then talking about pro wrestling, WWE, talking about not only how much do I love it and how I came across it, but how it has saved my life numerous times over the years. And I talk about music, and I talk about love, and I talk about my love story, and then I talk about after the love story that I had, and then waiting for her, whoever her is, and then mixing that all in, while also telling this story from the time I was born to August 9th, August 9th of 2024, to making that big life decision. So the story is a story of my life to a certain point in my into my 40s. But it's a very personal story that I am sharing a lot, that I haven't really shared with anyone. So writing this story felt really good. And the fact that this story started for me in 2019, sitting outside of a school with someone who is, even though I haven't talked to them in a while, is still a close friend of mine. And I'm very proud of this story. I'm proud of every story I've written, but I'm very proud of this story and how personal I was able to get, and being able to let all this out. And it was good for me. There's a chapter also in there where I talk about therapy, but I am very proud of this story. And for those who haven't read it yet, who are watching this video, go ahead and check it out. It's available on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. Get your copy there. And after you read this book, leave a comment and let me know what you think of the book. And let me know one thing that you were able to take away from the book as well. So moving on to the reading portion of our final day here of my social media book tour, I have 2 parts that I want to read to you, which is why I am not just posting this on Facebook, but it's why I'm also having this stream on YouTube on my AKT Publishing channel, why this is posted on my Instagram page and on my TikTok page. I have 2 parts that I want to read from this book, and I wanted to make sure everyone on the sites that I have posted this on are able to watch this. are able to see this. So we're going to go right into it. So the first part that I am reading is the last chapter in the book. It's called chapter 17. It's called Paving My Path. And I am going to read the half end of 182 and the last page of 183. And then there is a part towards the end of the book for the epilogue, which I am also going to read as well. So I'm just gonna dive right in. So we are harder critics. People can try. Let me actually take that up a little bit further. So it took another year, but during COVID, I found some courage and I slowly started putting my work out for people to read. And the more I wrote, the more comfortable I had become with releasing my stories out for the public to read. We are our harder critics. People can try, but no one puts us down harder than we put ourselves down. I looked at the job I had and I looked at what I love doing. The job I had was preschool teacher, and for 10 years, I have come across many kids that have called and known me by Mr. T. And I have come across many parents, and I have come across many different teachers that I have worked with. Then there is the writer, and the stories I have written, and the number of days, weeks, months, and years I've spent writing each story, reading it over many times, thinking about chapters to add and new stories to write. I looked at both paths, and I remembered the question I asked myself when I started working for North Bay back in September of 2020. Was preschool teaching something I always loved, or was it a means to an end? In other words, was preschool teaching a way for me to take the easy path in my life instead of taking a harder path and pursuing what I love doing, writing, entertaining people? I thought about that question, and I asked myself 4 years ago when I started working for North Bay, and I came to this conclusion. I could continue to be a preschool teacher, and as much fun as I had working with children and working with different kinds of teachers, I could continue down that path. And I wouldn't be as happy, but I would be okay. Or I could take a harder path, an unknown path, and do what I really love. Be a writer, be an author, create worlds for people to get lost in for a moment. Take them away from whatever is happening in their life and allow them to get lost in what they're reading. I talked with Emmanuel, I talked with Alicia, and I talked with my mom. I had their support, and when I looked at both paths and I thought about the age I am now, I knew which path I needed to take. I needed to take the path where I bet on myself, where I choose to believe in myself. I chose the hard path. I chose to reach for the dream. And now the last part I'm going to read is from the epilogue, and it's called, this chapter is called, and we're just going to go right in. Looking back at my life, I don't regret any of it. Everything that has happened in my life has made me the man I am today. Everything that has happened in my life, for the good, for the bad, all has been a lesson in my life to learn from. When it comes to family, no matter the kind of family you are born into, it's a hard, hurtful lesson when you learn that no one hurts you like family. But it's a feel-good lesson when you learn that family doesn't have to be the family you're born into. Family can also be the people you come across in your life. Good people that care about you, want nothing from you but your happiness. Family doesn't always have to be what you are born into. Family can also be what you make it into. Life is unpredictable. We can't predict how life will go from one day to the next. In life, it's important to be in the present, to hold on to the lessons from the past and not worry about the future until the future arrives. In my life, I've learned that no matter how deep I hide anything, it never truly goes away. It slowly builds and builds up until one day it explodes like a volcano. Everything I had buried in me since I was a kid, after my father's death, it started to come out of me like a volcano. The suicide attempts, the anxiety, the stress, the depression, the sleepless nights, all of it came from holding on to everything, keeping it buried since I was a kid. What I learned from therapy was to never hide anything. Never keep what you're trying to keep buried. No matter what it is, let it out, talk to someone. It's never a bad thing to ask for help, and it's okay not to be okay. One more thing. Life, love, and people are unpredictable. We can't know how life will turn out. We can't know who will be the one we will fall in love with, and we can't know the people that will come in and out of our life. We can what we can expect is the unexpected, and to always plan to be surprised. Dying is easy, living is harder. From the musical Hamilton. And that, my friends, is my life in a nutshell. This has been day 4, the final day of my social media book tour, right here on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube on my AKT Publishing channel. Thank you again for watching. I look forward to doing another social media book tour in the month of December. It'll be the last one for the year. It'll be for my other book that is now available on BarnesandNoble.com and on Amazon. It's a love story. It's called Dear Love. I'm looking forward to reading a few things from that and talking about that book as well. But I am Anthony K. Thomas. This has been day 4 of my social media book tour, and I will see you all on the next one. Peace, y'all.